Hello everybody, this is Sodhi from CAAN Wings Consultants Private Limited. My today's YouTube session is about how to be ready for the upcoming nominations. Now, a lot of you are there who are very pessimistic, who are saying probably we don't see the nominations opening in the near future, or there's no definite date mentioned as to when the nominations are going to start. So what's the whole point in getting started? So please let me tell you here that once the nominations open up, which definitely are going to open in the month of July, because that is when the migration year 2021-22 will be rolled out. But definitely before that, we do expect the nominations to open up, as the states have very clearly indicated that there will be a revision in the month of April, and that is when we expect the offshore applicants to benefit from the nominations that are expected to open. Therefore, I'd like you to focus your energies on being nomination ready instead of just looking here and there and watching carefully for the nominations to open. But when the nominations open, you will be lost because you will not have the time to do all the things that I'm going to talk about now. So let's get started. And before I get into it, yes, I'd just like to quickly tell you that for those of you who think that, right now the occupation list is too limited, too shrunk, and your occupation is probably not even there. So what is the probability that probably your occupation could be included in the revised lists? Let me tell you that at this time, since the states are very focused on taking, or let's say prioritizing, the onshore applications first, they have kept their list very, very limited, primarily with the critical skills only. But these lists are also under continuous revision, and in fact the Australian Capital Territory very recently on the 5th of March added the occupation marketing specialist in their lists. So what we are basically looking at is a major revision once it opens up for the offshore applicants. So please do not get discouraged by what you see right now. Please think about what will be available in times to come. So the first thing you need to be ready with for the nominations is, of course, your skills assessment. So for those of you, and interestingly, there are quite a few of you who probably think that they would like to get started with the with the skill migration process once they see their occupation listed on some state as available for nomination. Okay, sounds great, but that's not how it works, because nomination will be applied for by you once you have a positive skills assessment. Therefore, once the state lists your occupation, obviously those with the positive assessments are going to walk away with the nominations, and you will have to start with your skills assessment process. So for those of you who are looking at the nominations that could be potentially made available in the month of April, I would strongly recommend that they go ahead with the skills assessment under priority processing. Now, most of the state skills assessment bodies do offer a fast track route through which you can apply for your skills assessment, in which you get your skills assessment in about 10 days or so. Otherwise, if you are a little easygoing, you can probably look at the nominations that will be open in the month of July. In that case, you can go ahead with the standard processing, in which the assessments take about 2 to 3 months. Now, you need to understand that the validity of the skills assessment is up till 3 years only. Now, there are certain states, ACS, that clearly stipulates that the skills assessment is valid only for 2 years. On the other hand, there are states, the Ingenious Australia, that does go on to say on its website that their assessments, or let's say outcome letters, are indefinitely valid. However, since the DHA does not accept any assessment that is older than 3 years, if you think you've already crossed the 3 years, or you're about to reach the 3-year mark, you would want to get started and go ahead and apply for a reassessment absolutely immediately. In fact, let me tell you here that we've seen instances in the past where the applicant had lodged the application for a state nomination, and while the application was under process with the state, the skills assessment expired, because of which the applicant's application for a nomination had to be obviously refused by the state on technical grounds. So obviously you don't want that to be happening to you. Now, the next thing I would like to talk about is your English proficiency scores. So please make sure that if you have a positive skills assessment with you or have got your reassessments done and your assessments renewed, do you have the English proficiency score available with you or not? Therefore, I strongly urge that you immediately take your English proficiency test, such as popularly the IELTS or the PTE. The IELTS, in the IELTS, the academic as well as the general training both are acceptable, whereas for the PTE only the academic version is acceptable. And also let me remind you here that although the TRFs are valid for 2 years, but if you're using your TRF, that is the test report form for Australia skilled migration, the validity is increased by 1 year. So all English proficiency scores that are being used for Australia skilled migration are valid for 3 years. Now, the next most important part is lodging the EOI. So yes, I've seen clients who probably think that an EOI is something that is to be lodged once their occupation is listed on a state. Okay, let's go with an example. An applicant who thinks that probably when my occupation becomes available in South Australia, that is the time I will have to go ahead and lodge an expression of interest and then indicate South Australia as the preferred state in my EOI. It does not happen that way. First of all, you need to understand that an EOI is something you go ahead and lodge on the skill select system that is a part of the Department of Home Affairs. So in the EOI, you're basically expressing how you are claiming 65 points in support of your application for skilled migration, whether it is 189 or 190 or 491. For the EOI to be lodged, you have to first of all lodge one EOI. The single EOI gives you the option to indicate all three subclasses if applicable on you, that is 189, 190 and 491. So let's say somebody whose occupation is on the MLTSSL, let's say he's an accountant and he wants to lodge an EOI. He doesn't have to lodge one EOI for subclass 189, another EOI for 190 and the third one for 491. He lodges a single EOI and indicates all three. Also, a lot of times people think that, we would be interested in applying to South Australia, we would be interested in applying to New South Wales, we would also be interested in applying to Victoria. So let's float one EOI for South Australia, one EOI for NSW and one EOI for, let's say, Northern Territory or whatever. So please let me tell you that if you're floating too many EOIs, there's a fair possibility that it doesn't take you anywhere. So what you realistically need to do is lodge a single EOI, indicate all three subclasses and state the preferred state as any. However, as soon as you decide on a state in which you're finally going to apply for a nomination for a 491 visa, 190 visa, immediately change the state preference from any to that particular state. Also, I'd like to tell you here that since in most of the cases, for at least for a 491 nomination, you have to apply for a nomination proactively. Now, I understand in case of 190, the states like to keep the control in their own hands. They say, okay, fine, you just go ahead and lodge your EOI, indicate our state name, and we'll see whether we want to pick you up or invite you for a nomination or not. For 491 visa, it doesn't happen that way. Yes, Tasmania is doing that this time, but by and large, you have to see which state has your occupation listed, which state's criteria are you meeting, and then go through the application forms, the eligibility criteria for that state and lodge that application with that state. So, since you don't really know potentially where your occupation is going to be listed, you want to be ready for nomination. Let's say you want to be nomination ready by understanding the criteria and the eligibility parameters of all the states, so that whichever state opens up, you're ready with documentation for that particular state. Also, with the EOI, you need to understand that as far as the skills assessment is concerned, that is a state where just the primary applicant's documentation is involved. But when it comes to the expression of interest, you need to indicate. It is mandatory for you to indicate as to who all are your migrating dependents. How many children do you have? What's your wife's qualification? What's her English proficiency score, if she has any? What are the passport numbers, and so on. And you could be in a frenzy if you don't have that information available, and obviously your EOI is not going to be reflective of your actual circumstances. That's not going to be good for you. So having your EOI ready with the family information and everything related to you is a very good idea. Next thing you should be ready with as far as the nominations are concerned is that see if you can raise the points in any way. Now again, some of you might say, oh, we watched your XYZ video in which you said you don't need a higher score if you're applying for a 491. So why are you asking us to raise the point score? Now again, if I say talk about raising the point score, I'm only saying it with the point of view of 189 subclass or 190 subclass. Since, as I just previously shared, that some states like to keep the control with them, they like to decide who they are going to pick. So obviously some states do want to pick up the higher scoring applicants. So in that case, if you can fetch yourself some additional points by getting your partner skills assessment done, or if nothing else, we do know that married people tend to be at a little bit of disadvantage over single people, because single people get 10 points for being single. Married people can at least ensure that they get additional at least 5 points if they have their spouses take the English proficiency test and get 6 points in each section, achieve a competent level English proficiency. So it can be a very handy tip or a good thing to do for those who are targeting a 190 nomination. For 491 applicants, I don't think that's really needed. And then the next point I'd like to discuss, and this is probably the most important thing I'd like to talk about, what a lot of you probably are not aware of is that when, let's say, your occupation is available for nomination in a certain state, it's not that you just turn in your employment and education details and your English proficiency score and that is just about it. They go ahead and give you a nomination. You need to demonstrate two very important things to that particular state. One is that you have done adequate job research into that state. Now that does not mean getting a job offer. No, they're not asking you to get a job. They're not asking you to get an employment offer. All they're doing is they're asking you to prove to them that you've done extensive research into the kind of job opportunities available for your occupation in that particular region, so that the state government is assured of the fact that once you reach there, you have a fair chance of getting a job there. Now, interestingly, many applications for nominations are turned down, are refused because the state is not satisfied that the applicant's job research has been up to the mark or adequate. A lot of times people just devote 2 or 3 days to the job research and jot down whatever they can find online and present it to the nominating authorities. And their applications could be refused, saying that, your job research is very, very recent and we do not think you have got into details. You do not have any correspondences with any employers to prove that you've actually been in touch with anybody. Even if it's a no, all they want you to do is prove to us that you've attempted to contact them, you've been able to shortlist jobs and get into a communication with them. They're not wanting you to have a job offer as such. So this is one. The other important thing you need to have ready before the state nominations open is have your commitment statement ready. So obviously one of the biggest challenges the states face is that the persons they are nominating is a genuine applicant who has a genuine intention of living in that state. So that is something you can demonstrate by writing a commitment statement. Now, what exactly is a commitment statement? It is about the reasons that made you choose that state, exhibiting your knowledge, demonstrating your information about the kind of employment opportunities, the particulars of the state, such as what kind of climate the state has, what kind of culture it has, what kind of services it offers to migrants and so on. Now, a lot of times people quickly, hurriedly, once the occupation is available in a particular state and the nominations open up, they hurriedly just jot down things from the internet. They go on to the website of that state and they start copying and pasting it. Now, please understand, they are not looking for information they already know. They know what information they've put on their website. They are not looking at you replicating that information. They are looking at a very customized and a very personalized statement that can convince the states that you have enough understanding and has provided them enough convincing reasons for them to believe that you are committed to living in that state. So let me tell you, this can be a very daunting task, and this is something you absolutely need to be ready with. Use this time to do this. And the next one is that you need to, most importantly, before going ahead with a nomination application, need to see whether you are sitting at the fence. Now, there are a lot of applicants who are on the brink of turning 45 or maybe turning 40, thereby losing points for age, or turning 33, thereby losing 5 points for age factor. So in case you did not know, just let me clarify that though all states have this standard processing times, there's one situation where the states can fast track your application for a nomination in case you can prove to them that you're losing points for age. So in that event, the states can take up your particular application on priority so that an invitation to you can be issued, an invitation to apply for a visa before you lose significant points for your age, which will in turn, of course, affect your eligibility. So that is a document you will need to provide to them. That is a request you will need to put up with them. Be ready with that request so that as soon as you lodge your application, that is a document you will turn into them. And then most importantly, lastly, see what happens is when you apply for a skills assessment, let's say somebody might be having a skills assessment that was issued to him in the year 2019 or 2020 January, let's say, and now you're applying for nomination in the month of April 2021. So after the time you got a positive skills assessment, probably you will in fact need to provide the state with updated information. So you will need to provide an updated CV as to what have you been doing till now, after the time you got your skills assessment done till the time you apply for a nomination. Also, you may need to, you may be asked to apply your, provide evidence of your paid employment, such as your pay slips and so on. For example, the NSW had recently, when they had declared the criteria for offshore migrants, they had said that they would need pay slips till the time you were working. So if let's say you are continuing in a particular occupation, you were in ongoing employment, you will need to provide additional evidence of employment apart from the evidence that you provided to your skills assessment body. So obviously you need to update a lot of information as far as your employment information is concerned if you want to submit a valid and an authenticated application for a state nomination. So okay, now I think enough for today. I'd just like to end this video by saying that for 491 you have to understand the criteria of each state and then apply to the state individually. The state is not going to pick you up for 491. You will have to apply for a nomination. And out of all the states, I personally feel that probably the state of South Australia is one state that offers broader opportunities to applicants, because they have 3 different pathways through which they usually nominate the applicants. One is, of course, the general pathway, in which if your occupation is available on their list of occupations and you meet the specific criteria set by the state, you can of course go ahead and apply for that state, which of course will be on a first come first serve basis. Apart from that, they usually also have a high point pathway, in which if your occupation is not even listed on the state or is under special conditions, you can still go ahead and apply for a nomination if you have a certain high point, such as maybe 80, 85 or whatever they decide that to be. And the third is that if you have an eligible or an immediate relative living in South Australia and your occupation is not even listed on that state, you can still go ahead and apply for a nomination with that state. So with this information, I'd like to end the video here. For any questions, please call us on 78498 78498 and send us your CVs on caanwings@gmail.com, CAANWINGS@gmail.com. We'll be very happy to assist you. So I'd like to end this video by just a small message. Please be ready with the documentations for your nominations. While you're waiting, utilize this time to be nomination ready. So until next time, bye-bye and take care.